In this video, we will be replacing the sway bar links in this 2001 Ford F150. The sway bar links are a component of the suspension system and are located behind each of the tires on the front of the vehicle. I have installed wheel chocks behind the rear tires. I have set the parking brake. I have jacked up the front of the vehicle just enough so that the tires will rotate freely, and I have installed safety stands on both the driver's side and the passenger side towards the front of the vehicle. After removing both the driver's side front tire and the passenger side front tire, I can get access to my sway bar link location. If we take a look at our wheel assembly, we can first see our rotor, which is directly in front of where we're working. To find the sway bar link, we need to look in back of that rotor on our suspension components. If we take a look at the passenger side, we can see that we have a component that is not connected to another component. The centermost component is the sway bar link. This is the component that we will be replacing. This is connected to the stabilizer bar, which is the curvy piece of metal connected to the top of the sway bar link. On the bottom side of our sway bar link, we have our lower control arms. So thus our stabilizer bar link is connecting both the stabilizer bar to the lower control arms. If we take a look at the driver's side of this vehicle, we can again see our sway bar link or stabilizer bar link. This is the link that is connected to the stabilizer bar, which is again that curvy piece of metal, and the lower control arm. On this side of the vehicle, everything is still connected together. When we order a new sway bar link kit, it comes with all of the pieces to do both sides of the vehicle. We will be performing this operation for both sides because, especially with suspension components, you typically want to do both sides at the same time to keep everything the same. Taking a look underneath the lower control arm, we can see where our stabilizer link bolt comes through the lower control arm. This has been on here for a very long time and has full access to all of the weather, rain, road salts, everything that will rust and corrode the metal. We will be using some Amsoil's metal protector as a penetrating oil. This will break up the rust and eat through the corrosion and should help us get this off much easier. Using a 15mm deep socket, I'm going to begin by just trying to turn this and see what components actually move, if anything moves. So as I do this, obviously my connecting components just spin. So I'm going to need to hold on to this with a vice grip or some other type of tool that I can securely hang on to this while I loosen it. Once that nut has been removed, we can use a small hammer and tap that bolt out. It is important that you keep all of your old components so that you can use them as a guide for installing your new components. When we install this on our vehicle, we have to make sure all of our components are in the correct order. Our bolt will be running through all of our components, including the stabilizer bar and the lower control arm. We will begin with a washer and a bushing. Then we will have our stabilizer bar. The other side of our stabilizer bar, we will have another bushing and a washer. Then we have our centralmost portion, which will run between our stabilizer bar and lower control arm. The top side of our lower control arm, we have another washer followed by a bushing. The bottom side of our lower control arm, we have a bushing, washer, and then a nut holding everything together. If we take a look at the original component that was taken out, we can see that at the top of the bushing there is a small ridge or raised area. On our new bushings, we also have that raised area. We want to make sure that the raised area, that little ridge, that it is facing each other, and our lower control arm or stabilizer bar, depending on which side we are on, those ridges are facing each other. On our washer, we have a concave portion, and the other side would be a convex portion. We want the side that is kind of cut in or bent in, that concave portion. We want that to fit nicely against the profile of our bushing. So to begin this, we will do one washer, one bushing, making sure that that area that has that little ridge will be coming in contact with our stabilizer bar. This will then be installed into our stabilizer bar. We will add another bushing, add another washer. We will add that cylindrical tube, followed by another washer and another bushing. That can then be positioned onto our lower control arm. Now our goal is to slide another bushing, another washer, and then that nut on there, but we don't have enough to hang on to for that nut. So we need to compress our suspension just a little bit together to give us a little bit more to hang on to. Using a jack with a pad positioned underneath the end of my lower control arm, I'm going to gently raise the lower control arm just a little bit. And this should give me just a little bit more bolt to work with for installing the last washer and nut. Now when we tighten the stabilizer link, we need to make sure that there is a wrench on the top and the bottom so it doesn't just spin, and we're going to be tightening this to between 16 and 21 foot-pounds, since this is a four-wheel drive vehicle. Once completed, we can move on to the driver's side portion of the vehicle. The driver's side portion is identical to the passenger side. We want to lubricate the components with some penetrating oil. I am using Amsoil's metal protector. We can then loosen up the bolt on both the top and the bottom. Now, although the bottom nut came off quite easily, the entire unit is not budging as far as coming out of there. So what I've done is I have put a vice grip on my centermost portion and a 1/2-inch ratchet on the topmost, and just used a little bit of force until the bolt actually broke. Now, although the bottom nut came off fairly easily, the topmost portion was locked in there, and hammering it, turning it, twisting it would do nothing to remove it. So I used a little bit bigger ratchet and a little bit more force, and ended up just breaking off the top of it. And it's pretty clear that the whole thing is rusted together. This validates replacing both sides of this, because given the amount of corrosion and rust, it probably would have broke relatively soon anyways. Reassembly is identical to the other side. Torque it down between 16 and 21 foot-pounds. After that, we can put our wheels back on, clean up our area, and test drive our vehicle.